We're set in the stage now for a panel discussion as we've taken through the Guardian of Digital Realm, navigating the landscape of data security on two important areas, which was taken by Mr. Vipin Suralia and Mr. Nitin Bhatnagar. Now, to join two of our presenters here on stage, we'd like to invite Director Payments and Settlements from the Department of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Mr. KVK Alvis, who's joining us as our panelist. And we also have the founder CEO of WebEx Pay, Mr. Omar Sahib, as well as the Chief Information Security Officer for Lanka Clear, Mr. Chamath Algawata, joining us on stage as our panelists, ladies and gentlemen, for our panel discussion. And the session will be moderated by the Group Director, CEO of sectoral, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bhushan Daratna. Can I invite our panelists to join us on stage, everybody? Could you please put your hands together?
Good morning. We have a few minutes to say good afternoon. 3 minutes exactly to be. So I welcome everybody for this 9th Annual Cybersecurity Summit, the first panel discussion. So we had an excellent presentation from Vipin and Nitin, all rhymes together. And I was telling the Honorable Minister that Visa and PCI is like the husband and wife. But they corrected me saying that it's more than the husband and wife, it's like the father and the child. So Nitin being the father, Vipin being the child. Other way around, okay, right. All right, so thank you for ladies and gentlemen being here. So as you can see, eminent panel here, we have the regulator, we have the processing partner, and we have a private payment gateway founder CEO here. So I would like to let how I want to actually moderate this session is I give enough opportunity for you all to ask questions. But in the event that there is no questions, I have written down certain questions which I will be asking. To start the process, I would like to post this question to our regulator, Mr. Vasanta, who is here with us. So, and we saw during Nitin's and Vipin's presentations that we had a lot of security concerns on this data regulation. As we all heard today, the Honorable Minister also mentioned, and it was in the papers a couple of days back, DPA is also being implemented, and the chairman, Mr. Arjun Herath, was also at the opening ceremony. So my question to Mr. Vasanthi is that, what are the security measures that embedded in Sri Lanka, to facilitate digital payment and payment systems in Sri Lanka from the regulator point of view?
Yeah, thank you, Bhushan. So, good morning to all of you. So, to start with that, Bhushan, many organizations are embracing ICT solution to improve efficiency and provide better services to their customers. So, the financial institutions are also no difference. So, they also has to embrace ICT solutions to provide better customer service. So the strength of a chain lies in its weakest link. So it is same as when you take the financial industry, also it is the same. The strength of the information security in the financial sector also lies on the weakest member in the financial industry. So because of that, the weakest member will create a threat to the entire sector. So we need to protect the sector. So in order to do that, we have to we have to keep the basics in place. So when it comes to basics, it is essential to maintain the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the system. So keeping that in mind, from the central bank side, we firstly introduced a thing called minimum baseline security standards for information security management. Actually, it is based on ISO 27000 series. And we pushed all the banks to implement the baseline security standards. So the baselines or the minimum things, the minimum security requirements are in place. Then after that, we recognize the need of an institution where some security incident happen in a particular institution, how it could be well disseminated or well shared with the other institutions also in this payment industry. In order to address that to that central bank, together with the Sri Lanka Banks Association and Sri Lanka CERT, we all together created an institution called FinC CERT. So he's representing FinC CERT, and he will elaborate more on that area. And after that, so we set up the baseline security, then we set up an institution, and it is also not sufficient to protect the financial industry. So then we came up with, in 2021, we came up with the regulatory framework on technology risk management and resilience. It's a very advanced framework, and it also covers all the gamut of security aspects in the financial sector. And as I know, it is a bit of a killing thing for the banks. It was not easy to adopt because there are certain things that must be adopted, but it is not easy. So it is challenging for the bank that we have understood, but we need to ensure the security in the financial industry. So because of that, we have to push all the banks to implement this. So one of the two words came into the market because of this security framework is the CISO, the role of the Chief Information Security Officer, and the Security Operations Center. So we have actually not only told the banks to place the CISO in the in a bank, but we have also indicated where to place it as well. So what should be the CISO's role and what should be the CISO's reporting line, in what management grade, and what are the qualifications also, so that this particular guideline goes into that detail as well. And also we have informed, we have mandated to all the banks to implement a security operation center as well, but it also depends on the size of the bank. There are some domestically important banks, so it is one level, and for the others another level, like that. There is a variation in that. So from the security, so these three things, I think, did a very good job in securing the financial industry in the market, together with the PCI DSS and the regulations and the guidelines given by the network providers as well. So all these together, it set up a very good secure financial industry in the country.
Thank you, Mr. Vasantha. I'll ask two more questions and we'll open up for the audience to ask questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand. There will be a mic on either side is waiting, and they will come and give you the mic. So this question is coming to Chamath. As Mr. Vasantha said, you're representing Lanka Pay and the FinC set. So somewhat similar question that I asked from the regulator. Now, the data protection regulations are increasingly being regularized, requirements. So earlier we saw the GDPR coming in, and now we have the DPA from Sri Lanka. There are so many other places. But either way, anyway, our data is being used by everybody, without having actually a privacy in it. Today, everybody has our mobile numbers or emails. Now, in terms of Lanka Pay, so what challenges that do you have in these adopting these regulations into your processes, and also the impact of those regulations coming into your operations? If you could give a glimpse on that.
Yeah, so Bhushan, I will just start with the point that the data is available for everybody. Remember in early days when Google Assistant came into play, they provided gamut of options. Options in the sense Google Assistant was for me, I've been an Android user throughout the time. So it was for me the first time we saw AI or proactive, let's say if you have an air ticket, I remember this in 2012. If you have an air ticket book coming into a Gmail, Google Assistant was good enough to remind you when to leave for the airport. looking at the traffic. Happened in Sri Lanka. So that's the level of information we have unknowingly or knowingly shared with other parties. Yeah, that's a level of analysis that other global providers could do and could assume about us. So that was in 2012-13 period. Now we're in 2023, 10 years back, 10 years after. Now, yes, good thing that we adopted data protection. GDPR came a little earlier, but I think it was also took time to come out. As a payment processor, because we are more of a payment processor than front-ending payment solutions provider like WebExPay, Omar represents. But adaptation of this data protection or these controls is more of a, let's say, I wouldn't call it a challenge, because if it's a challenge, then if you don't do that, or if you don't take up the challenge, then attackers or people who are willing or trying to get your data will not wait. These controls are based, these controls are put in place looking at what threats that data has. So if you don't adapt that, then what that means, you are opening a door, you are opening a window at your house, so somebody can come in and take this data out. So simply put, so yes, we have most of the Sri Lankan systems in locally developed systems. We see there are some gaps so they were not designed with security in mind or designed for privacy, because there was no big requirement, or there's no legal requirement about 5 years, 6 years back. So that is the gap that is a gap that our people or our systems have to catch up, where they need to do certain changes like consent management, data deletions, data retention changes, this type of things. But looking at the banking industry, and I know certain telcos, because I earlier used to work with the telco coming into the banking industry. So the concerns were there. Even though the government took some time to come up with the regulation, a lot of other banks, other telcos, they were having concerns. They were having, at least in preliminary level, data protection programs within the organization. So for them, I think it's not a big challenge to adopt this. For others, yes, it would be some much work, but there's no option, whether you like or not, because I put it more than we have to do it because it's a law, we have to do it because there's a risk, and we don't want to take that risk. And so, as an impact, I don't think it would give an impact, I think it would give an opportunity. Because if you are PCI DSS certified, or if you are compliant to data protection, then more people will be comfortable working with you. If I'm selecting a payment provider, one payment provider comes up with PCI DSS certification, or another payment provider does not come up with it, then I would obviously take the PCI DSS certified guy, because I'm comfortable that there's a third-party assurance that my data is somewhat secure than the other person. So this is, I think we should take this as an opportunity and adopt the standard, so we are comfortable with ourselves and other people are also comfortable with ourselves. So this is one thing I want to talk about. So in adapting, there are a lot of steps we have to do. We need to do our data assessments, and we need to check our data. We need to do data impact assessments, then scope out the areas that we need to protect. We need to understand our stakeholders, have communication plans. So still, I think at the end of the tunnel, there's always light. So this is in my personal view, it's a good direction that government took it, and to direct our people whether they like or not, you put it that way, but for a more comfortable and secure processing systems.
Thanks, Ramat. I think it's the right attitude that we should have. It's not a challenge, but it's an opportunity. I think if you all look in that way, there's a lot of things that we can do together, and especially the payment processing partner and also the regulator also comes on board the same way, that it is all to protect us. and the regulation should come to protect us, but not to put blocks in it. So that's a good attitude to have. Good to see you progressing on that. So my next question is going to be Omar. I mean, as we all know, the technology keeps on evolving, and we as consumers want everything convenience, and by tip of your fingertip, so that you can do everything. So with these regulations also coming on board, then the technology is also being evolving, and I'm sure you as a private payment gateway partner, you will also need to be evolved accordingly. How do you balance that and then the regulatory requirements which are coming in terms of data security?
So, thanks, Bhushan. Good afternoon, everyone. So, it's a valid question. Now, if you look at the data, digital economy is growing. I just walked in here after launching the new platform called digigo.lk to digitize SMEs in Sri Lanka. I call the people are SMEs or the individuals, that the citizens of Sri Lanka still are in school when it comes to digital. And there is a little bit time for us to adapt, but security is becoming very critical, because we have also seen as much as the businesses wants payment acceptance, the security sometimes compromises even at the merchant level. So one aspect I see is it's called supply chain attacks. I think it's a little bit smaller version than the make card, right? So we see where the merchants' websites, sometimes if it's not secure, we do our education, we do our assurance, we do our website reviews before they go live, but subsequently, maybe they have not updated their licenses, right? Those kind of challenges, we see sudden attacks in the middle of the night hitting our gateway. The gateway gets slow. These kind of attacks do happen, and of course because we do have invested in security measures to mitigate such risk, we have been able to safeguard. So this knowledge, we need to give it to our businesses or even the individuals, and educate them on how important is security measures, how they need to implement. The biggest challenge is a lot of people don't know how to implement. Even the PCI security standard guidelines, I'm sure not all banks are PCI compliant. This was some time back when I looked out, right? But there is a lot of knowledge that needs to be pushed down there. And I'm glad to help if there are any parties who wants to list on this platform digigo.lk to support SMEs. We can actually pass that education down. Yeah.
Right, thanks. So I would like to open for the audience. If there are any questions, please raise your hand. Can we put a little bit of more light to the audience, please? And there are mics outside. There is one question from here, up in front. The mic here, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the insights which you have shared till now. My name is Sujit Christie, President IC2 Colombo Chapter. Question for Chamat and, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
Omar.
Umar. This is both with respect to the gaps. Chamat spoke about gaps in terms of the application transitioning to becoming compliant. And Umar, for you, the gaps in terms of accelerating and making a true digital economy. What would it take? What would it take us to get there? Because these two have to go hand in hand.
Yes.
One, you need to have a secure platform, and the other one, you need to have the people embracing it. Exactly. What in your experience?
Okay, who's going to take that question? Right, okay. So what we need is the embracing. People need to accept that security is key. We need to have security. Now, just like you have a security guard to safeguard your premises of an office or a house, or putting a burglary alarm system to protect your own property, right? Even having a security system to your vehicle, or even to your pet, right, to monitor the pet. So in the same way, a business or your financial transactions that you transmit through an app or something, it is very much essential that you need to have that security, level of security. This level of emphasis has to be given at a national level, and I think from a national level, that's DPA implementation and all that will definitely will be one of the stepping stones to achieve that. Maybe we won't be able to achieve it today. Maybe in another, by 2030, DigiCon concept that we have, by then, I think we will be able to hit there, but we need to keep on talking about this, emphasize the importance, and give use cases. A lot of people, why they don't understand the concept of security is we don't show use cases. Like I said, you have a security system to your vehicle, you have a security system to probably your wife, your pet, right? All of that for your financial aspect. Do you have the security? We need to keep emphasizing with examples. Did I answer that question? Yeah, Chabat?
Yeah, so to add to Omar's points, where Omar actually took my stance and explained why it should not be avoided and why it cannot be avoided. But I'll put it into the more local prospect and technically to adapting these gaps. So first thing, we need to understand what we have, like what data we have, what systems we have, what are the capabilities of our systems. Then we need to understand what the rule dictates or what is the standards dictate. So that is a gap that we need to bridge. And so this banks or whoever institutes that are certified with PCI DSS, I think they are very familiar with this. Even Visa has their own Visa security program that we have to provide our reports, we have to provide our feedback on them annually. So, but others, I think the understanding of our own architecture, own infrastructure is quite critical and essential to understand where we are right now, where we are standing. Then we need to understand where we are going to go, or what is our target. So based on this and the understanding of our risks is very important. Because now we talk about risk-based control implementation. Okay. We select our controls, we select our business opportunities. We used to select our business opportunities based on risks. Lesser riskier business opportunities. But now we have to select our controls. We have to look at the threats and the risks that we have and to guard. So these are the gaps that we have seen. And obviously there's another gap, that finding correct people, the knowledge within the country, the capable people who can handle this type of task. Like that is something for like SICRA, institutes like SICRA to fill in, basically to provide us good, capable resources. I'm pretty sure that I can see that they're doing it. And
thank you for that.
So these are the gaps that we see. As when I referred, these were the gaps that I referred when I said gaps, if Sujit wanted me to elaborate on it.
So this question I'm asking from Omar on behalf of the audience before they ask the question. But you don't need to answer now. If anybody wants the answer, you can meet him outside and get the answer. So you were mentioning about security systems for the wife and for the husband. So I'm sure they will want to know.
I
said I don't answer now.
No, I wanted to pick the mic and say I don't want to be a sexist. I forgot to say that wives put more controls over the men. Even sometimes put a tracker in the vehicle.
So if anybody wants to know how to put a security system to your wife or to your husband, meet him outside. He will give you the... Or how to break it. Okay, any questions from the audience? There's one there. Can we have the mic? Up in front here. Oops, sorry, it'll come to you.
Hi, my question is to Nitin. Nitin, have you taken any steps to increase more QSAs in Sri Lanka or encourage more QSAs in Sri Lanka?
I think answer to that question is yes. So you will see some partners coming up in the region. I think they are working with the council. I may not be able to take the name at this point, but I think, I think someone is there already in the crowd. So there are steps. I think Boshan is one of them. So I just took the name. So, but we are working towards getting more QSs, resources trained in the region, and you will see that kind of a local regional players coming in and supporting you. We are also working on expanding the knowledge in terms of internal security assessors. If you are really, your organizations are really interested, because I talked about PCI DSS version 4.2, that's where if you're using the customized approach as an option, you would definitely require to have ISs within so that they can support you in drafting these requirements and understanding the requirements, and also coordinate with the qualified security assessors to get the requirements implementation with the right intent. So work in progress, you will definitely see some kind of directions coming in that way, and you will see the local players coming forward and trying to support us in the fight to protect the payment data.
Thank you. Any more questions? I'm trying to catch up the time that we lost at the beginning. So, that gentleman, please.
I am Susil. I am not from the banking or finance industry. So, I have one question. The PCI is the only standard, or are there other standards like this?
So PCI Security Standard Council, as I said in the presentation, has been founded by the 5 major payment networks, which is Visa, who's here, MasterCard, Amex, JCB, Discover, and PCI standards are only standards that works on protecting the payment data. So Vipin can add to it, but this is, and I think we don't have any competition. We don't have any other standards that are catering to the requirements of protecting the payment data. PCI standards are all the only standards, and it's just not one standard. People think that PCI DSS is the only standard. We have 15 data security standards covering the entire payment ecosystem that I showed you on the screen. So they are vast number of standards that we are here with, and when we talk about the future of the payments, and I think that's where the mobile payments are picking up, and we have started working towards getting more mobile payment standards to cater the requirements of the industry and support the industry to protect the payments.
I can add to that. Since you said that you're not from the banking or finance industry, if you look at the personal data protection or privacy protection, you can go with ISO 27701. That is the standard for privacy information management. So if you're looking for a generic standard that is there, and if you feel like the PCI DSS doesn't apply to you, then even in a bank, we scope it out. We scope the card data environment and other outside general data processing environment. So even the other areas that are not in the PCI DSS, we can have this 27701 as a standard to implement to protect privacy data.
Sir, from a data security perspective, he's a monopoly. But if you look at the entire payments industry, there are different standards, including there are messaging protocols, which are the entire industry is based on the ISO messages. That's one kind of standard. The other is for the QR codes and for the chip cards, there are EMVCO standards. Similarly, for the type of plastic which needs to be there for cards, which is called white plastic, there are standards as well as certification which each of the card brands participate depending on the role everybody plays. So while on data security, PCI is a monopoly right now, but if you look at the entire gamut of what the industry works with, right from how card needs to be manufactured, how it needs to be designed, how it needs to be shipped, there are a lot of technologies behind it and a lot of protocols and standards which support what the PCI DSS guides us on. And that's why, because there are so many specialists, there is a requirement, as Nitin mentioned, there is not one standard, but there are different standards for different requirements, different role each one of us plays in that. And sir, since you are from an industry which is not part of banking and finance, And I was sharing with sir also. So for simple ABCDs, assume nothing, believe nothing. If in doubt, consult, and delete if you are suspicious of something. And for those of us who are regulated, I also say that there is an E, which is keep in evidence, because somebody is going to come and knock, hey, did you do this right? You should be able to evidence. So giving a very non-technical answer about what I mentioned in the morning, we exist for 2 roles only. Please follow this simple ABCD, whichever industry you are in. Thank you. I can give one more questions. Yep, one here.
My name is Pivishan. I am from RDB Bank. My question is a little straightforward. It should go to that regulator. Actually, it is knowingly or unknowingly, the mega trend is now that cloud computing. So what would be your insight or your stand regarding banks now banks are leveraging cloud computing for their critical system hosting kind of thing. So what would be your insight regarding this thing, or are you encouraging this thing? What is your opinion regarding this?
Thank you. Thank you for your question. So I was actually expecting a similar question. When it comes to cloud computing, there are a lot of to take from cloud computing. So the cloud computing is something that we can't drop, and we have to live with the cloud computing. But we as the regulator, we are looking it at a different perspective, because we have to, since we are from the financial sector, we have to safeguard the financial sector as a whole. So when it goes to cloud computing, or if you want to go to cloud, so what we have advised is you need to have some sort of a backup mechanism in case of an emergency, how to operate. So like I mentioned earlier, the availability is a very critical factor for the financial sector. So please consider about the availability, how we are going to make the things available to your customers, because there are always unforeseen things could happen. There could be anything that we do not expect it to happen, but unfortunately those things happen. So we have to be aware of it, what kind of a risk could come in the future. If that kind of a risk comes, how do we proactively, or how do we take the risk mitigation measures? So the cloud is a good thing that it is, but go with knowingly how to adopt it, careful how to adopt and mitigate your risk. So with risk mitigation mechanisms, I think you may be able to move forward cloud, but the risk mitigation mechanism, the availability of your system for your customers is always a must, and you need to ensure that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So in the interest of time, I think all of them are also hungry. So I would want to close the session, but before we close, I'll give probably 45 seconds to each person to give in terms of one key message to the audience in terms of this data security and also in the payment card industry. So 45 seconds like this, the bill will come up if you exceed the 45 seconds. I can go first. In fact, I'll keep it very short and simple. No one of us can do it alone. Collaboration is the key. Someone else can take the additional seconds.
Vipin stole my word. So probably, in addition to the collaboration, I think you should all look forward to getting involved within the council. We are eagerly looking forward. We are hungry to get more feedback from the industry stakeholders, and look forward to coming forward and contributing to the development of the standards, because we have just started. This is a new phase for all of us. The payments are growing. There are different forms of payments which are coming up. We need all your support. And with that, in order to build trust in the ecosystem, we have to start using the trusted partners, which I just highlighted. Use qualified security assessors, ISAs, PCIPs, and the solutions that are listed on the PCI Security Standards Council website.
He took extra seconds of yours as well.
I hope a lot of bankers are here, so my message is to the bankers. The security cannot be achieved alone, and it cannot be achieved by one institution. So my message is to you, if there is a security incident, there's a person here, please share your security incident. Then he will take the proactive measures and he will disseminate that information to the others, and he will act to protect the banking system as a whole. So please share your security incident with FinCSIR.
For the banks and financial institutes, yes, what Mr. Ali said, and from what the message from Visa, collaborate. FinCSIR is there, our FinCSIR operation manager is also there, Kanishka, and collaborate, share information, because if you are attacked today, next day there's going to be another person. If somebody else attacked today, next day it's going to be you. So that's the message for the banks, because you know your processes. I know that you are aware of it. There's somewhat maturity in banking and financial sector on the information security. Everybody else, if you haven't read the Data Protection Act, just read it, because it applies to everybody. And try to understand yourself, try to understand your data, processes, and see where you gap, and because it's going to be for everybody. So that's my message to the audience.
Thank you. Omar?
Yeah, so my one is very simple. Make people trust in every transaction. So make sure that we implement our securities in tight to build that trust.
But we are in a zero trust era. How do you expect people to trust?
That all depends. Dependencies cannot be discussed here.
Okay, it's another discussion topic on another day. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Can we have a good round of applause for the panelists here?
For more latest news, subscribe to FTTV.